Hello one and all, and welcome back to Seansplains playing Slay the Spire 2. Where we left off last time was at the start of Act 3 with the Ironclad, and we have another Ancient. It's probably time to mention that Ancients can vary between acts, so you've got a set amount that can only appear at the start of Act 3, and a set amount that can only appear at the start of Act 2. I'll talk more about them throughout the games as we get different ones, and try and explain different bonuses that they can give. The one we have here is Nonupiene, I'll say. We are getting an option of Diamond Diadem. Whenever you play 2 or fewer cards in a turn, you take half damage from enemies. This can kind of be good for this character because you're using high energy cost cards, so sometimes I'll find myself only using a couple of cards, but it's very rare that I'll do that, so I don't think I've ever taken this personally. But there will be high cost builds that you would be able to make use out of this. Blessed Antler, gaining energy at the start of each turn, and at the start of each combat shuffling 3 Dazeds into our draw pile. As much as I said status cards are really dangerous and they bulk out your deck too much, since these are ethereal, which means that they exhaust themselves after a turn of not using them, it's not a huge drawback, so it seems fine, and it's a potential option because we love energy with this build and we're trying to get as much of it as we can. And we've got a Signet Ring, which simply just gives you a lot of gold and gives you the option to buy pretty much anything you want at a shop. But I would say that because I already have 571, which is a very healthy amount, and if we look at our map, we do have the option to technically go for 2 shops if we go left, and we also get an option of 3 bonfires, which I like, but then we would have to sacrifice this elite to go to this shop. I'm not sure if I would want to do that just for the sake of the gold, or whether I would quite happily take the antler. I think I'll just take the gold. We'll go for the shop, because the way that you can look at it is your relics within shops costs around 200, so this would effectively be able to get me 3 relics instead of taking that 1 elite that only gives me 1 relic. I don't have to do the battle, so there's no risk of me losing, and I can potentially get other cards that might be good. I'll be able to remove an extra card, which is really good for this deck, and I can also get potions to fill out my potion slots just before the combat starts. So I'm going to take the money here. This is quite a sizable amount that you won't see in too many of your runs, but let's see how we get on with it. My path here is going to be going up to the left, so I get a bit of variety. Instead of just doing 3 fights, I want to actually take the question mark so we can get a bit of pressure taken off us. We'll go here. We'll take this elite here to get a relic, then we can probably heal afterwards, and then we'll go for this shop, which gives us the ability to prepare before we take on the final boss of the run. So our first enemies are very annoying to deal with. If you don't have the ability to block the damage that they're going to hit you with, they have what's called paper cuts as a buff, which means all of their attacks not only do base damage, but it also takes 2 max HP off you, and every other turn they're going to do a multi-hit. So at the moment they're threatening to deal 6 max HP damage to me, and I really want to try and avoid that. So we'll try and block out of it. As it stands, they are doing 14 plus 10, which is 24. I'm blocking for 20, so it looks like I can't avoid it unless I kill the guy in the back by using up our fire potion. And to be honest, I think it's worth it because I don't really want to lose any max HP. So now we're fine. Next turn, hopefully we can finish it off. We can do flame barrier and we can kill the guy in the back, which means we don't take any damage. And now we finish off. Here we've got an option of Battle Trance Plus, Thunderclap or Headbutt. I think I might actually take the Battle Trance since it allows me to draw 4 cards for free. I think that's a really good bonus, and as much as I'm technically adding a card to my deck, if I was to play this, I'm obviously getting to draw an extra 3 compared to what I would have been able to. I don't know if I'm explaining that well enough, but in terms of card draw efficiency, it's not really taking up a place in my deck because it's giving me the ability to draw more. Hungry for mushrooms. How long has it been since you ate? Wait, what's that fantastic smell? Following the scent, you reach a cosy campground with all manner of tasty mushrooms being cooked. You don't consider the safety of eating these mushrooms because you're so hungry that you don't notice the dead adventurer over in the corner here. We've got the option of Big Mushroom, which means we draw 2 fewer cards at the start of each combat, but we raise our max HP by 20. I think this is really good on certain builds where you already have the ability to draw more cards, which we'll talk about in future runs when we get the relics that do that for us. But we're going to take this one here to upgrade 2 random cards and lose 15 HP, because at the moment we only draw 5 cards, and drawing 3 on turn 1 is not great. And here we can afford to lose HP since we automatically regenerate it after combats anyway. We get the Bird Swoop and the Defend buffed. Bird Swoop particularly is a really good card for us to get a buff on. And if we look at our deck now, we'll find that quite a lot of it, almost half of it, is already upgraded, which is a really good pace to be at this point, and then also because of armaments we can consistently keep upgrading more. This enemy is one of the ones I like least in the Act 3 because he's going to give himself a buff that means he gains 9 strength every turn, I want to say, which means we have to kill him as quickly as we can, otherwise he's going to start causing us problems. It is 9 strength. So he starts off with 12 damage, and then this is going to go up by 9 every single turn. Ways to keep on top of this would be to apply Weaken, so it does less damage. We can also get certain cards that reduce the overall strength of the enemy. Here, what I'm going to do is block with armaments, maybe. Could mitigate the damage. I kind of want to just play Cascade and get that going. Is that wild? Let's play Cascade. Let's have fun. I think we're okay at the moment. I think we can afford to be a little bit silly. Thunderclap into Breakthrough, into Strike, into another Strike, so we get the block from playing 3 attack cards. We can Swoop to do a little bit more damage. And we're taking 5 damage, but that's fine. I think it was worth it to have a little bit of fun there. We'll do Flash. So now, because I just played Battle Trance and drew those cards, when I play Brightest Flame, it will only give me 3 energy at the cost of 1 max HP, because I now have the no draw available from the debuff from that card, so I will not get the 3 draws. So I now need to decide if that's worth it, and if I need to do that. I don't think I need to do this, because I can do Taunt, and I can do Flame Barrier. That means I block enough this turn. He also takes some damage in return, and hopefully we can just kill now. We don't get a lot of attacking going on. Get the Bash, which does 30. That is unfortunate. We're going to have to use Brightest Flame. And then we'll just play it safe and do a Strike. Here we get Havoc, which is play the top card of your draw pile and exhaust it. I think this can be good in certain situations, especially if you're doing an exhaust deck. I like to take it a lot, but I won't here because we're at 30 already and I might exhaust a good card, even if I am playing it. Anger Plus, this is what the upgrade looks like. Instead of 6, it's 8 damage, and it obviously has the ability that means it copies itself, as I mentioned earlier on. And then we have Spite, which does 5 damage, and if you lost HP, it hits 3 times. So this is really good on a build where you are removing HP from yourself with the cards like Breakthrough and Blood Wall. But I'm not going to take it here, seeing as I only have 1 card that does that to me. And here we get a really good shop. So this relic means that all items are going to cost half price from now on. So if I click on this, all of the items drop in price. We can get another Master of Strategy. As we've talked about with card efficiency, it's never bad to have something that draws a lot of cards. Also exhausts itself, so it removes itself from a deck early on. Colossus is a really good block card as it gives us more than Defend does, or it's the same as a Defend Plus, but you also receive 50% less damage from vulnerable enemies this turn, and I apply a lot of vulnerable. So I'm very tempted with this, but I need to decide if it's worth it. We definitely take Gremlin Horn. This means that whenever an enemy dies, we gain energy and draw a card. This will be good in our hallway fight. And Bag of Marbles is really good turn 1 because it allows us to apply vulnerable. A good combo, which we now can't do because we swapped Red Mask for Toxic Egg, is to have Bag of Marbles and Toxic Egg at the same time, so you're stripping 2 artifact whenever you're fighting certain enemies, which, as we saw earlier, there was the little chomper guys who had 2 artifact on them, which means I could then just start applying vulnerable. Or just applying vulnerable and weaken to most enemies is very helpful on turn 1. We can remove a card, which in this case I'm going to remove a Strike. The reason I'm removing Strike over Defend is we simply have more of them and I like to keep them balanced throughout my run. And I don't think it's a bad idea to have Dark Shackles for the final boss of this run because they can do a lot of damage with multi-hitting, and this can mean that they will do 0 on one of their turns if I get it timed right. And I'll just take 3 potions because I have the money to. And after thinking about it, as much as I really like Colossus as a card, I'm going to skip it because I don't have a lot going on. I've got too many cards. I don't want to bulk my deck out too much. This enemy might not look that threatening because he's not doing much damage and he's going to do some sort of debuff, but he does have a power that can be annoying for certain builds, where whenever you play a power against him, like juggling, which will have this border on it, I will take 6 damage. The only good thing about that 6 damage is... Sorry, I'll play my cards first. I wanted to play armament so I could buff everything, and then I played up the uppercut so that I get more weaken on him for longer. Playing the juggling would mean I would take 6 damage. The only good thing about the damage that you take here is it doesn't apply directly to your health bar, it applies to your block first. So if you have enough block to get to, in this situation, 14, you could then play your juggling and still not take any damage this turn. The debuff he applied was frail, so now we're going to be blocking for less, which isn't great. We'll play Master of Strategy. We'll play Dark Shackles, the card we just picked, so now he's doing 0 times 3. The importance of saying 0 times 3 instead of just the enemy doesn't do damage this turn means that if we have reflect damage, like Thorns, they will still technically hit me, and they will still take damage back from Thorns. So don't think that that wouldn't happen. We'll use this card. We will play Flame Barrier so that we again reflect more damage, and that also means I can afford to hit him again. He's now doing 16. I'll play Flash of Steel first. Play Master of Strategy. Get Dismantle. I didn't play that too efficiently, I should have done it the other way around, but I got a bit excited because I knew I was going to kill him this turn anyway. Here we see Headbutt, which is one of my favourite cards and favourite mechanics in this game. Of almost every character has some form of card that allows you to take a card from your discard pile and put it back to the top of your draw pile. I think this is a very good mechanic in the game and something that you should be using as much as you can. I'm not going to use it here purely because of the card cap and I feel like we've got too much going on, but this is great and I would almost always pick it, especially in Act 1. Also, a quick note of 9 damage for 1 energy, especially in Act 1 is really good, and I think it goes up to 13? Oh, it's 12. It goes up to 12 damage for 1 energy. Great card. Feel No Pain is one of the best cards for this class when you have exhaust going on. For every single exhausted card automatically giving you 3 block, which goes up to 4 block. So if you have the card like the Fiend Fire from my last episode in Act 2 and you exhaust, let's say, 9 cards, you automatically get 27 block or 36 block, sorry, or 36 block, and you'll also do all that damage at the same time. So this card can be one of the best powers in the game. An Infernal Blade, adding a random attack into your hand and it's free to play this turn, can be good in certain situations if you're desperate, but I would almost never take this because of the randomness of it and how you don't know what attack you're getting. You don't really know if it's going to be worth even the 0 cost of it. It's just, I personally do not think this is a good card. We're skipping. I've only lost 8 HP, but I would regain 21 because of the inefficiency. I would rather just upgrade another card. I'm going to upgrade Master of Strategy to get me more draw. We get a free relic here, which we get Petrified Toad. So now whenever we enter a combat, we will automatically procure a potion, which just does 15 damage. So it's a slightly weaker fire potion, but now we don't have to worry about getting them from any means, because we'll just be given one at the start of each combat. It's kind of pointless now because we've only got this combat and then potentially a combat here or here. So we're likely only got this combat, we've got one more probably out of these two, and then we've got the final one. We could realistically hit 3, but we're also going to get potions when we hit this shop, so not the best relic to get right now. Anyway, coming back into here, we have an elite combat where we have 3 enemies in front of us. The first guy is going to just consistently do big damage and buff himself. The second guy is going to hit you with a debuff that means that all of your cards are going to have Ethereal until he is killed. Ethereal is something I only vaguely mentioned earlier on, but it's a debuff on your cards that means if you do not play a card in that turn, it's exhausted forever. And the third guy is going to shield himself this turn, but next turn he's going to place a debuff that all of your cards that have upgrades are no longer upgraded. So ideally when I'm playing this fight, I try and target the upgrade guy first because having upgrades on cards is quite meaningful. Then I'll target the guy that's exhausting my cards, and then I'll target the guy at the front who's doing a lot of damage. Realistically, if you just have high enough block, you don't care about him anyway, and you just don't want to run out of your deck too fast with the exhaustion. and you don't want to really have unupgraded cards, because at this point in the game you tend to be relying on those upgrades. So coming into the fight, I don't particularly like my turn 1 here, so I'm actually going to use my Swift Potion. Something to note as well is because I know I've got the shop coming up and I can pretty much just buy potions, I'm going to use all of these in this combat to give me the best efficiency I can get out of this combat. So now that I've got 11 plating, I'm automatically blocking for 11. They're only doing 21 damage this turn. So I'm going to play Brightest Flame. I think I can afford to lose a little bit more HP. I'm going to play Darkest Shackles on him, so he's now doing 0. I'm going to play Flash of Steel on the guy in the back. Like I said, I want to try and kill him as quickly as humanly possible. I'm going to Dismantle to deal even more damage to him. I'm going to Break Through to do AoE damage and deal a lot to everyone. We gain 4 block. I think Demon Form is probably good, but I want to do this first and make sure. What have we got in here? Is it worth using Cascade? Probably not. Bird Swoop would kill him. I think we can Armaments to make Thunderclap stronger. We can Thunderclap for efficiency and how much damage we're doing. We can Bird Swoop on this guy. I should have played Juggling earlier on, realistically, to get Bird Swoop twice. That would have been the best play. But I think we're still doing okay for ourselves here. And now that we've got no more damaging cards, I'm going to actually play Cascade in the hope that I play more attacks. And we get 3 defend cards. Okay. Now we've still got another turn of Vulnerable, which is really good. We'll play Master of Strategy, get more cards to look at. I'll play Setup Strike into this guy. Even though he's doing 18 damage, I'll just try and offset it. Play Battle Trance to get more draw. We get Breakthrough, which allows us to get a kill, and it means we would take 8 damage off of him. Do I care about that 8 damage? Yes. We'll do Breakthrough. Oh, of course, I never even thought about that. Because I killed him there, I get an extra 1 energy and 1 draw from the Gremlin Horn. So I was totally safe to do that the whole time, I never even saw it. So apologies for that mishap. We'll play Taunt so that we now block enough. And we add even more Vulnerable onto him. And now he's going to be doing a buff turn, but we can kill him anyway. We get a Vulnerable Potion, which allows us to apply 3 Vulnerable. Get a Venerable Tea Set, which means that the next rest site we're going to have 2 extra energy on the first turn of our next combat. And here we get the option of Bloodletting, Stomp, and a new card in Pommel Strike, which gives us 10 damage for 1 cost, and we can draw 2 cards. Again, if I got this really, really early, I would love to see this. And also, the boss that we're coming up against in the end, I'll explain it better when we're in the combat, but we really want cards that draw more, so I'm going to actually take this. Here I'm going to Smith again because we're basically at full HP, and I will upgrade Juggernaut. We get Chandelier for extra energy on turn 3. The reason I upgraded Juggernaut, I should have explained that, was I'm going to be blocking a lot in the next combat, so the more I block, the more damage I do. Here we can sacrifice our Vulnerable Potion for an upgraded common attack, or our Flex Potion for an upgraded common attack. I'm going to take the Vulnerable Potion, as in the final combat I'm going to prefer using this Flex Potion because it gives me instant 5 strength for a turn, and I can make more out of it than I can do with this. We get the option of Pommel, Breakthrough, and Thunderclap. I'm going to take another Pommel for more draw. Also forgot to read out that event. Sorry for that. This is a great relic early on in the run when you have the option to rest and Smith consistently, or even when you get the event for the Bordonis egg and then you could rest, Smith, and hatch the Bordonis egg all at the same time. I'll take it to showcase it. We obviously haven't really needed it because we've never really been low health enough, but this is a very good relic, especially early on. It's also something I should mention is certain relics are only available to be bought in the shop, and they show up in this slot, and the other 2 that you see are ones that can be earned in other ways. But it's important to have a look at this slot of relics to see which one you would like, as it is only available in the shop. And if you see one here, you won't see it in the rest of your run, as it has been used up as the kind of relic slot. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, because we have so much money, I'm going to take this Permafrost, so the first time I play a power each combat, I gain 7 block. This also synergizes well with Juggernaut. And Pen Nib, with every 10th attack you play, deals double damage. This is particularly good on multi-hitting attacks, or on AoE attacks. So like this Howl from Beyond, would be 16 damage to all enemies, but this would buff it to 32 damage to all enemies. So we'll take that. Fight Me is one of my favourite cards for the Ironclad. Unfortunately, we never got it early on, and I don't think it's really worth taking now. It's great on a strength build, and it's high risk, high reward. Gives you 3 strength, hits the enemy twice, and it gives the enemy 1 strength. There's actually a similar relic that's only for the Ironclad that gives you 2 strength and gives the enemies 1 strength every single turn, and it becomes a scaling race. So I really like this style of play, but I won't be doing it this time. We're not going to take any cards here. We don't need Rolling Boulder because we don't block enough to make the use out of it. This is really good on a build where you have a lot of skills, you're blocking a lot but you don't have any damage potential, so you can just rely on this to deal AoE damage every single turn. Panache is good on a build where you're using a lot of cards, which is particularly better for the next character we'll be using in the next episode, but we'll get to that when we get there. Here I only have 2 potions. We could get the Petrified Toad, but I think we have better options here. With Snecko Oil we can draw 7 cards which are randomised in terms of cost that are to put into my hand on any given turn. This is also different from the first game. If you've played Slay the Spire 1, when you drew those cards they would be randomised for the rest of combat, but in this game they're only randomised for the turn that they are drawn, and then they go back to their normal cost. And we'll take a Vulnerable Potion as well. Here we'll also remove a Defend, and we'll call it that. I'm very tempted to take the Panache because it's still a very good power, but I just don't really want to put more cards into my deck than I need to. Here I can showcase the Mini Tent to just show you that you don't have to do anything in a specific order. You can rest and then it will still just come up on the screen with the option to smith. So don't worry about clicking the wrong thing. And here I'm going to prioritise giving Flash of Steel a bit more damage since it's a free card and I can always play it when it's drawn. So a good way to gauge what cards you want to upgrade is A, what cards kind of need an upgrade to be good, like armaments, and then after that look at what cards am I going to be clicking almost every combat, like Flash of Steel, because it's free. Whenever I see it in my hand I'm always taking it, but if I don't have enough energy to play other cards, there's no guarantee I'm going to play them. Another thing I've not mentioned or spoken about this run is the fact that this card says innate on it, and that was the upgrade that it had, was to make it an innate card. This just means that you're going to start with that every combat, which is a good and a bad thing. It's good because you obviously start with it in your hand and it means you get to play it consistently turn 1 and you can plan around that. But the downside is if you don't want an innate card there that feels bulky in certain fights, it's going to take up one of the 5 slots. It's not like you draw 5 cards plus it's innate, it becomes the slot 1 card, but you're only going to draw 4 other cards, which takes us back to draw efficiency. So here we'll get into the fight. I'll play Juggling. We'll get the block from the Permafrost. We're now blocking for 11 and he's doing 18 damage. Our goal here is to kill the boss behind instead of focusing on this guy as a general strategy. He's only a minion, which you do get quite a few of those combats in this game compared to the first one. This means that the actual boss here with the more health, Queen, is the one that we need to kill, whereas if we kill this enemy the battle will still continue to go on, and Queen then does a lot more damage than this guy does. This guy's easier to block and we can weaken him and keep him under control as best we can throughout the battle. I'll save my Flex Potion for turn 3 when I have the extra 3 energy from Chandelier, when I think I can make the most out of it, when I've got a lot of attacks in my hand. And I'll probably just apply the Vulnerable Potion now because there's no reason not to. I'll probably save the Snecko Oil for that turn as well, just so we're getting the most out of our Flex Potion. So here I will again just apply Vulnerable to Queen to get it on her as much as possible. Do Flash of Steel, I'll do Pommel Strike and draw even more cards. I'll do Setup Strike to give myself more damage, and another Setup Strike because we had the Juggling. The debuff that's just been put on us by Queen is called Chains of Binding, and this is the gimmick of the fight. So every single turn when you draw your 5 cards, or in other cases you can draw more, 3 of them will always be what's called bound. This means you can only play one of these 3 cards and the other 2 will be locked out and it won't let you play them. Just to show you, I'll play Pommel Strike to draw 2 more. And now these have little crosses over the energies, and when I try and play them it will say I'm blocked by Chains of Binding. So now we can only play these 4 cards. So we'll just hit into Queen. We get another breakthrough. Take a bit of damage, Now on turn 3 we have 6 energy, and thankfully we also got the ability to draw more cards. So we'll play Brightest Flame. At this point I really don't mind losing the 1 max HP. Unfortunately also the second debuff that Queen puts on you is 99 frail, 99 vulnerable and 99 weak. With no method in the game at the moment to clear debuffs, this means that you now have to fight the rest of the combat with these debuffs, and there's no way to clear them, and I've never seen someone survive 100 turns. I'm pretty sure it's impossible to survive that much, because this guy will continuously scale throughout the fight, as that's what Queen is now going to do every single turn, is give him more strength. His attack pattern is dealing 2 single attacks and then dealing a triple attack, so you can try and keep on top of that by using things like the Dark Shackles that I got earlier on, which unfortunately I haven't drawn yet. But we still might, because we can do Snecko Oil, and just applying Weaken as much as you can whilst focusing your damage on Queen. Here we're going to use Dismantle, I'm going to use the Juggernaut power, I'm going to use Flame Barrier, I am going to use the Snecko Oil now. Unfortunately the Dark Shackles is costing me 2, and all of them have actually come out costing a lot, which is unfortunate to say the least. Pyre's gone down to costing 1, so that might be a good shout, and we could actually save the Flex Potion for next turn, because that means we'll still get the 2 energy. Or we can play Cascade, and that's guaranteed to play 2 Masters of Strategy, but then that wouldn't work out too well for us. I think we'll play Dark Shackles, so he does 0 damage, Pyre, so we get more energy on the next turn, and then we'll just play the defense so we do damage with our Juggernaut. Now we have the option of one of the Master of Strategies or Uppercut. We'll play this obviously so we can draw more cards, so we have more options to use up all of our energy since we have a lot of it. I'll use the Flex Potion this turn, and remembering that I have Juggling available, I can effectively force myself to play Dismantle twice, which will do 80 damage twice, so we can actually close out the battle now. As much as I've made this look easy, it's only the first difficulty in the game, and it's because we took our time on our decisions and we forced a build which works well with the other cards around it, and that's where the importance comes in this game, is making sure that A, you don't take too many cards, which even 32 I think is a lot, but you can allow yourself to take more if you find more cards that allows you to draw more. So we're thinking about draw efficiency, we're thinking about damage efficiency in terms of how much damage we're doing per energy, as well as how much block we're doing per energy. And then we need to think of what kind of strategy we want to do, which in this case I got a lot of vulnerable and a lot of damage and enough block to keep me going. So we'll do Bird Swoop, I'll stop rambling on. We'll do Strike, Dismantle means I get Dismantle again, and again I wasn't paying attention fully to all of my surroundings. It's good to have fun moments where even though I've played a lot of the game I still make a lot of mistakes, so it happens to everyone. The 40 damage was based on Pen being on its 10th attack. I can't believe I'm trying to do a tutorial thing for people and messing up in such simple ways, but it happens. Are we now going to mess up and eat our words after we've just said I've made this look easy? That's very possible. We'll play this card, we'll play Bash and get the energy back, and I'm going to play Cascade because I can afford to. Why not? We can actually play Brightest Flame here to get more energy back, we can Pommel, we can set up Strike, we can Flash of Steel, and we can Thunderclap. We can Battle Trance for more cards. We only take 4 damage. If we can do 41 this turn, we win. Hit her and hit her again. And we got there in the end, even after a couple of mistakes and a couple of little nuances in the final fight. So something that I should be doing, whilst I'm teaching all of you, is to keep an eye on all of the things that you have going on at once. Admittedly, I did get quite a lot of different relics in Act 3, and that's why I just ended up blitzing through and I was focusing on other things. But remembering the different buffs that you have available to you to give you outs in situations where you might not realise that you can actually get out of bad situations. Specifically in that area where we had the 10th attack, so when this little number goes to 9, your next attack is going to deal double damage. And remembering that when we have Gremlin Horn, if we are struggling but there's an enemy on low HP who we can kill them for free and get our energy back and even draw an extra card that might be very useful. And another thing to keep an eye on is your Ornamental Fan, as well as other relics that have a similar playstyle of every time you play 3 attacks you gain something. And make sure that if you're on a second attack and then you have the option to block for 5 or do damage. Just take the 4 block and hit them again, because doing more damage is probably more impactful than getting that extra 1 block. So as we're still in the early access of the game, there isn't what will probably soon be a final act. So here we just have a bit of dialogue, enemy kill, you do damage, and he will kill us, for now. And we get a victory question mark. You get a little score here to tell you how efficient your run was effectively, and then you get an overall of how much everybody's done over time, which as you can see at this point in 2026 in June, we're doing pretty well. You get an overall score at the end, and we even have badges at this point. So we won a run with 600 or more gold, we spent more than 1,000 at the merchant, and we killed 6 or more at elites, which is really cool. As we notice, we get the epochs on the left. You get them based on how you play out your runs, and also based on how much score you get in your runs. And at the bottom, it will come up with discoveries, which is effectively all the different cards that we picked this run, your relics that you played this run that were new, your enemies that you played this run that you haven't played before, and then your epochs. I'll now just go and show you epochs before we close out the video. This is found in the timeline on your main menu, which I'll show you in a moment. So we click on it, play a single run to reveal this epoch, so you don't even need to get to the first act boss. If you have a really unfortunate run and you get unlucky decisions your way, you will automatically unlock the ability to get Yaaaaaas, which is an ancient that I will now start getting from Act 1 onwards, which we didn't get in our very first run there. Chapter 5, Yaaaaaas, the reopening. Mother of Resurrection Yaaaaaas, awakened from her slumber. Rise, champion, again, again. Yaaaaaas will greet you at the start of each run. Now that the timeline expands, we get to see all these different little epochs, and it tells you how to unlock them. So we've got the daily, play a single run with all characters and beat Act 3. My Face, beat Ascension 1 with the Ironclad. Ascensions are your difficulties in this game, so when you beat a run like we just did at what's called Ascension 0, we unlock Ascension 1, and so forth, until we get to Ascension 10, which is the final one, which I'm hoping to ultimately achieve in this series with everyone. Darv, encounter all other ancients to reveal this epoch. Darv himself is another ancient, but we'll talk more about him when we unlock him. Fog rolls in. Play a run with the Ironclad to reveal this epoch. The Silent. News of the Spire's reopening made its way to the Silent. She ferries a boat to the capital. This is my favourite character in the game, so I'm really excited to start playing her next. She has much different mechanics and focuses more on a skill-based build rather than an attack-based build, so I'm looking forward to that in the next one. The Silent sneaks past the gatewards with ease and enters the Spire once more. We now unlock the Silent-based epochs, and all of the epochs that you unlock are the same effectively for every character, so it'll be beating Ascensions, beating all of the acts, playing a single run, beating 15 elites, and if we can find it, beating 15 bosses. So this will be the same for all characters, and they'll all unlock different things related to those characters. The Ironclad. A warrior from a faraway land entered the Spire. Driven by pure instinct and accursed blood, he has lost all reason and identity. All who prevent his ascent shall perish. So when you do your different epochs with each character, like beating the elites, beating the bosses, playing through the game, getting a certain amount of score, you're going to either unlock 3 cards or 3 relics that are associated to those characters. Here we get Molten Fist, which is 10 damage for 1 already, and doubles the enemy's vulnerable. This is useful in a couple of ways, because we can make the vulnerable last longer for those boss fights to make them easier to kill, but it also really scales with a couple of cards. Bully, which we saw in our run, which we didn't pick, that does more damage based on how much vulnerable the enemy has on them, as well as this card over here, Dominate, which applies vulnerable, and we gain 1 strength for each vulnerable on the enemy. I've seen this card do some crazy things, and hopefully we are going to do that too when future runs. And then we have Cruelty, which is a rare card that means that vulnerable enemies now take 75% more instead of 50. I'll likely use all of these on future runs. We scroll back a bit more, we've got Beat Act 2 with the Ironclad to unlock Devastation. The Ironclad's strength surges, the flames of the demonic pact course through his blood. Cuts and bruises heal rapidly, the Valley Guard are cleaved in two, the Desert Tribe are burned to a crisp, Windwalkers smashed into the ground, and even a familiar horde of aggressive bronze-cladded warriors are set ablaze with these exciting new flames. All of the Ironclad's enemies are showing no mercy. All of the Ironclads? Ironclad? Where is everyone? We unlock 3 more relics for the Ironclad. The first one is when you're below 50% health, you have 3 additional strength. So you can focus builds where you purposefully stay below 50% to get that extra strength, to give yourself the risk and reward. Or it's just nice sometimes when you accidentally fall below that point and you get the strength bonus. Paper Frog, which means enemies with vulnerable take 75% more rather than 50% more. And this synergizes really well with the cruelty card we just saw, meaning that enemies would literally take double damage, which is a huge buff. And then Ruined Helmet. The first time you gain strength each combat, double the amount gained. So if we play this along with the Dominate card we just saw, and Dominate gives us, let's say, 10 strength, this would make it 20 more strength. So we're going to see some really good runs in future, hopefully. And this is where the beauty comes in this game and why I enjoy it so much, is when you hit a really good synergy, it feels amazing. You feel really proud of yourself for thinking of something and managing to get all the cards to come together and all the relics to come together, and I really want to share some of those moments with everyone. Chapter 1, The Pact. For centuries, war raged between the Ironclads and the Valley Guard. Driven by ambition, a young Ironclad ventures to the Forbidden Boundary and bargains with the Sacred Demon. Potions unlocked. We've unlocked Blood Potion, which heals us for 20% of our max HP, which can be helpful in a lot of situations. Soldier's Stew, which all cards containing Strike gain 1 replay this combat. Replay is a new mechanic in this game from Slay the Spire 1 that allows us to play cards additional times. This is obviously much more impactful on a lot of different cards, but we'll see that more in future. And Ashwater, which allows us to exhaust any number of cards in our hand, which is good for a few reasons. We can have exhaust synergies, like we saw with Feel No Pain, a card that means that whenever you exhaust cards you would gain block, or even just getting rid of the cards because you don't want them anymore. It has multiple uses, and we'll see more of that later. The Ironclad's rage cannot be tamed. Ascension difficulties can be activated when starting a run. And then we get the one that we got for unlocking just by accumulating score at the end. Prion. Magnum Opus. A void of nothingness, but then the world came into existence. It churned about and moulded itself to that which tells stories. Along this journey lay a planet named Prion, a mere speck in this universe. They say that a great story about a spire took place there. And here we have colourless cards. So these will be available to all characters, as I mentioned before with colourless, and these ones have some interesting bonuses. First one is a power that means that every 10 cards you draw gain energy. This would have been amazing in our previous run with all that draw synergy we had. Entropy. At the start of your turn, transform 1 card in your hand. I feel like this is a very niche card. I've not used it too many times myself. I've never really wanted to take it because it's too random for me. But I suppose you could use it in certain situations if you have statuses in your deck and you want to transform them into something useful. And here we have Catastrophe, a 2-cost card that allows us to play 2 random cards from our draw pile. If we have more cards that are 2 or 3 cost in our draw pile and we manage to get those with this, we would get huge efficiency. Otherwise, I don't often tend to play this card. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for following with me as I went through the Ironclad run. I plan to go through the Silent with my next 3 videos, and I hope you enjoy those just as much. The first act will always be a little bit longer because I'm explaining the character in general, but I'll try and keep it as concise as I can and not make the videos too long. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.